The celebration of Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee was a moment for many to reflect on the enduring monarch.
A lot of people have grown up, you know, with this royal family. I know my father was watching something recently, and Dad just said to me, you know, this is my history. He said, the Queen is the same age as me. So everything they've talked about this 60-year Jubilee, he said, it's my life as well. And he said, it's just been beautiful to relive it.
Overseas, 1 million Britons have defied bad weather, lining the banks of the Thames to see a beaming Queen Elizabeth mark her Diamond Jubilee.
River pageants are part of Britain's history, and to celebrate the Queen's 60-year reign, a motley collection of maritime heritage sailed on a current of national pride. In the Queen's front yard, familiar faces belted out familiar tunes. The musical tribute over, the dazzling finale. The palace and its surrounds took centre stage for the final time.
Lindy and Michael Chamberlain finally vindicated, with the coroner finding it was a dingo that took their baby daughter Azaria 32 years ago.
I felt huge relief. Finally, finally, the right decision.
A legal victory that made headlines around the world.
When that story broke, I just started in radio, and I can remember the fascination, the drama. A dingo's taken this baby at Ayers Rock, and that's how we reported it. That was the first finding. And then to see the groundswell of public opinion turn that around, it's something I think we'll always be ashamed of.
One of the greatest miscarriages of justice in Australian history officially corrected, as coroner Elizabeth Morris delivered her findings.
Please accept my sincere sympathy on the death of your special and loved daughter, Azaria. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Victoria continues to be hit by aftershocks following last night's powerful earthquake. It was centred between Moe and Churchill and could be felt right across much of the state.
Peter, this is something few of us here in Melbourne had experienced, particularly on this scale. But experts say it could have been very much worse.
Her sprint for world recognition was closing in on the final strides. And on Sunday, June 24th at 1:45 a.m, together, we tuned in to see the world get a taste of black caviar.
We've had great horses come along in the past, but black caviar from the get-go was different.
I think whether you like racing or not, this is a great story.
And also, you had that quirky trainer, Peter Moody, behind her. And, you know, the racing suit was something that he's seen athletes do. And he said, well, why not? You know, she's one of the world's greatest athletes. Let's put her in one of these suits as well. So she ends up looking like Usain Bolt.
We were interested in every detail regarding this horse. We wanted to know everything, not just about the owners or how she did flying over there, but then when she got the playmate, oh, we were all so happy for her.
Supermare Black Caviar is now under lock and key before her big race as she goes for a 22nd straight win.
Champion sprinter Black Caviar will be racing to make it into the record books when she makes her international debut at Royal Ascot later tonight.
You know, to see the race in Ascot, in a way, you're supporting Australia and saying, come on, Black Caviar, you're representing us here against the best in the world. Come on, Australia.
This was the moment nearly 80,000 racegoers and the Queen had been waiting for.
They're racing in the Golden Jubilee. Black Caviar in front with 100 yards left to go. Here's Restia Dajon and Moonlight Cloud. He eases up near the line. Here's Moonlight Cloud. It's tight. Black Caviar and Moonlight Cloud in a photo.
It was the race that stopped the nation's heart. We waited for reassurance that Black Caviar was indeed our world champion.
A heart-stopping moment, finally giving way to jubilation.
Just to see that she was spent, but she held on to win, was just incredible.
A crowning moment for Black Caviar.
It's been one hell of a journey. You know, I think it'll take a little while to sink in and appreciate what I've experienced here today.
The jockey Luke Nolan said afterwards that he really felt the weight of Australia on his back, but they did us proud in the end, and that's what it was all about.
After years of escapes, secret trials and legal wrangling, Tony Mockbell enters the Supreme Court to finally face justice.
I intend by these federal and state sentences to impose a total effective sentence of 30 years imprisonment.
He'll be at least 67 before he's released, the last of the major underworld players now gone.
Carlton star Chris Jardy's facing suspension for a bizarre on-field incident. The tackle, dubbed the chicken wing, left North Melbourne's Lee Adams with a shoulder injury.
And Gold Coast son Carmichael Hunt says he had dreamed about kicking the match-winning goal, which left Richmond's finals hopes in tatters.
Is he the hero that the Suns believe he is? He definitely is!
We need rescue inside the auditorium. Multiple victims. I got 7 down in the feet or not. 7 down!
Chaos and confusion just moments after a gunman opened fire during a midnight screening of the new Batman movie. Unsuspecting moviegoers thought it was a stunt.
London is basking in the glow of a breathtaking opening Olympic ceremony. The show was peppered with cheeky British humour, famous actors and musicians, plus a Bond girl cameo from the Queen that stole the show.
7 back-to-back Tour de France wins, but now, officially at least, Lance Armstrong is a disgraced drug cheat after deciding not to contest doping allegations. He's been stripped of his Tour de France titles and banned from cycling for life.
Astronaut Neil Armstrong is being hailed as one of America's greatest ever heroes tonight.
In the moment that captivated a planet, some of the most famous words ever spoken.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Armstrong died from heart surgery complications. His family says next time you walk outside on a clear night and see the moon smiling down at you, think of Neil and give him a wink.
Melbourne street violence charged into daylight when the CFMEU strike pitted workers against police. The brutal images shocked the city.
There were ugly clashes.
Hold the line! Come on, boys!
As workers took on police, there were claims of brutality from both sides.
You know, it just came to this sudden head and no one seemed to be really talking about it.
Whilst violence faded, tension remained as the union and the police put their soldiers on the front line.
More than 2,000 union members have blocked one of the busiest intersections in Melbourne. 1,000 police, many recalled from leave, descended on Lonsdale Street.
Behind closed doors, the generals tried and failed to broker peace.
But the company dismissed Fair Work Australia's recommendation of a 2-week cooling-off period.
And that bitter city standoff between unionists and construction giant Grocon is over for now.
To see such conflict, I think that's very disturbing for all Melburnians.
There was an inevitability about Brett Ratten. We put it to air that his job was unsafe and we knew it. Carlton knew it, but they didn't want the public to know it.
As speculation raged of a secret board meeting, there were reports Ratten had already been sacked, but CEO Greg Swan remained tight-lipped.
Carlton made it official today, announcing Brett Ratten's sacking as coach.
He's one of footy's good guys and a Carlton favourite son, but now he's been axed by the club he loves.
It's been a part of my life and my family's life for a long time. I am disappointed that I'm not coaching the club that I've played at and been a part of, but I can't change that.
If you weren't a Brett Ratten supporter, you certainly were after that day, because he handled himself with such dignity, held his head up high, and he gained so many supporters out of that.
Mick Malthouse has been appointed senior coach of Carlton for the next 3 years.
When you've got a bloke like Mick Malthouse waiting in the wings, everyone knew that, gee, this bloke can still coach, and I'm sure Mick will do a good job.
Do you believe you've got the core that can win a flag?
Well, what I do believe is that their best is very, very good.
It's going to give new meaning to the phrase Carlton-Collingwood rivalry, is it not?
Oh, it's a beauty. It should be an absolute ripper.
It's been Australia's darkest day in our 10-year occupation of Afghanistan and our worst on the battlefield since Vietnam.
Faces of the fallen, Australian lives laid down on the dusty battlefields of Afghanistan.
Their comrades made every effort to revive the three soldiers, but unfortunately their wounds proved fatal.
Compounding today's grief, 2 Australian Special Forces soldiers died when their helicopter crashed while attempting to land in Helmand province.
The football world is in mourning following the death of AFL star John McCarthy.
Port Adelaide players were summoned to the club's Alberton headquarters, where shocked staff members delivered the tragic news.
He was a unique, a precious and loved young man.
The AFL Final Series was the culmination of a season that had kept us guessing.
Right up until the end, no one knew who was going to win it, and that's what you want in an AFL season, is to have that uncertainty.
The interstaters were a worry, though, because we were concerned that we could have 2 interstate teams in the grand final.
Those left standing held the hope of 4 Australian states. The Dockers shocked the Cats, and the Roos had run out of steam against the Eagles. Collingwood held on, but not for long, while Adelaide impressed many as they fell only 5 points short of their goal. With the league's best teams now set for the grand final, the AFL celebrated the success of the individual.
A who's who of the football world's gathering at Crown for the game's Night of Glamour, the Brownlow Medal.
I declare the winner of the 2012 Brownlow Medal, Joe Watson of the Essendon Football Club. It's been a long night, yeah.
It was so good to see Job win the Brownlow.
Tonight, his father, Essendon legend Tim Watson, reflects on his son's historic win and what it means to him.
As a father, it doesn't get much bigger or better.
And to see Tim's response, it was just beautiful.
He stepped out of his old man's shadow and done something I never did.
The carnival continued on with speculation, anticipation and celebration.
I love Grand Final Day. Melbourne laps it up. We're all united. I think just about everybody is watching that game.
Now Chesky, Hawthorn with another ball. Yeah, and that's the man. They need to move it quickly too. Gord's could he roll through? Come off the mark. They've done it. What a team.
Jill Maher had been a stranger to many Melburnians a week earlier. But through tragic circumstances, she has become someone who we will remember for the rest of our lives.
Well, we all followed that story because it could have happened to any of us. And at first, she just hasn't come home. Then she's missing. Then we see her husband, Tom, saying it's so out of character. And then we fear the worst. And then it becomes the worst.
Police have confirmed that they have identified Jill Maher on security camera vision walking north on Sydney Road at 1:41 in the morning on Saturday morning.
And the way it unfolded over the next 5 to 6 days is something that'll stay with me forever because of that security vision when police released it.
It was devastating news when the death of Jill Maher was announced on the evening of September 27.
After a statewide hunt for the man in the blue hoodie, police believe they found him yesterday afternoon. The 41-year-old Coburg man was interviewed well into last night.
To actually go to Sydney Road in Brunswick, I did the news from there one night, and to talk to the locals and to feel their grief, it was overwhelming. You can understand why this story captivated us so much.
Just the outpouring of grief afterwards in Brunswick and the march with all the public coming out in support was something that obviously touched Melbourne to the core.
Huge numbers of people from across Melbourne converged on Sydney Road to honour Jill.
We can't believe this is happening in our community. I think this is why the response was so profound, because she was such a beautiful woman, happily married, and it had such a horrendous ending.
Outside the chapel, Jill's family released 29 doves, one for each of her 29 years, symbolising her free spirit. Her husband Tom and father George embraced. Earlier, their farewells to Jill were heart-wrenching.
Goodbye, my beautiful, funny girl. I love you forever.
Melbourne Storm's victory in the NRL Grand Final has been dubbed the sweetest success 2 years on from the salary cap scandal that saw the club stripped of 2 flags. Sponsors are fleeing from Sydney radio shock jock Alan Jones, cancelling advertising on his show over his claim the Prime Minister's lies forced her father to die in shame.
When the Domain and Burnley tunnels closed on October 3rd, Melbourne was brought to a standstill. From the Channel 7 chopper, Peter Mitchell saw the effects firsthand.
It's only when you see it from above you realise this has brought Melbourne to its absolute knees. You have shut down a major city of 5 million people. It's just gridlocked. The day Melbourne was brought to a halt in a way we've never seen before.
Right throughout the morning peak, all vehicles were diverted just before the 2 tunnels. The Monash was clogged. The West Gate, chaos. Then alternative routes also became packed. Drivers complained there was not enough warning.
The decision to close the tunnels was not taken lightly and is based on safety being our #1 priority.
We don't want to see this ever happen again.
Some 12 hours after the problem was first detected, it was fixed and the tunnel reopened slowly. There were humble apologies from CityLink.
CityLink have come out and said it will never happen again. They've rectified the problem with the computer, but you just wonder.
Australians at home and abroad have paused to honour the victims of the Bali bombings that sent shockwaves around the world 10 years ago today.
Well, 10 years, it's hard to believe. But when you see the pictures coming back of the families who've gone over to remember their loved ones, it's absolutely devastating.
I always shed a tear because my beautiful daughter Simone was number 88.
These mourners, though, are a long way from letting go.
And to hear the words of some of the families that 10 years doesn't heal anything for them. You know, it's impossible to move on after an event like this. We have to remember them.
At this year's Melbourne Cup Carnival, the world was on show. The thoroughbreds were stronger, the fashion was smarter, and the celebrities were even more fabulous. A reminder why this city loves its cup.
Melburnians love an event. And this year, I thought it was more glamorous, more exciting. I think the fashion this year was extraordinary, and we just lap it up.
The darling of Derby Day was our fair lady, Nicole Kidman.
I also love that there's sort of the black and white thing. I love that you've got to work within boundaries.
The Oscar winner was an elegant addition to the birdcage, where the famous rubbed shoulders with the beautiful and influential.
It was a privilege to be out there once again and rubbing shoulders with Charles and Camilla.
A highlight, even by Melbourne Cup standards.
And as the clock struck 3, the Prince, Duchess and the King settled in to watch the race.
The victory got the royal seal of approval with the cup presented by the Duchess of Cornwall.
The field was excellent. It was just full of class. And for a Melburnian to get up and win it, well, it caps off the day perfectly for us. Barack Obama has won the race for the White House. Republican rival Mitt Romney conceded defeat late this afternoon, delivering Obama a second 4-year term as US president.
We have fought our way back, and we know in our hearts that for the United States of America, the best is yet to come.
200 Hamas rockets were fired into Israel. In return, Israel launched 200 airstrikes on Palestinian targets in Gaza. This centuries-long dispute is on the brink again of all-out war.
The Aussie radio station Royal Prank has had tragic consequences, with the nurse involved apparently taking her own life in London.
A prank fewer than 30,000 people heard live, now the subject of worldwide scrutiny.
Barack Obama has urged his nation to come together and tackle the issue of guns in American society after a school massacre that took the lives of 26 people, most of them children.
400 young children were in class at Sandy Hook Elementary when a man armed with at least 2 semi-automatic handguns got through security.
Dame Elizabeth Murdoch has been remembered as a person who embodied the very finest qualities of Australia at a memorial service at St Paul's Cathedral. Her son Rupert led the tributes as hundreds gathered from all walks of life to celebrate a remarkable Melburnian.
Outside in Federation Square, many hundreds more listened on intently.
In many ways, she grew up with this nation, in her spirit and her energy. She embodied the finest qualities of this country.
On many occasions in 2012, we heard the echoes of years past, in stories of celebration and in stories of sadness. History played a role. And so we can only wonder how long we will hear the resonance of 2012, the year that was.